So this week we got one of the most insane displays of denial and projection we've seen from Donald Trump, and trust me, that's saying something. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to watching a sitting president blame his own doctors for the public's concern about his obvious cognitive decline. Like that's the move? That's the strategy? It's not me that's falling apart, it's the doctor's fault for checking? What? But let's start from the beginning because this story is absolutely wild from start to finish. Trump sat down for an interview and immediately went on the defensive about his health. Not because anyone asked him tough questions, but because he knows what we all can see. The slurred words, the rambling nonsense, the fact that he can't remember which country he's talking about half the time. We've all seen it. His own staff has seen it. Hell, foreign leaders have probably taken bets on how many times he'll confuse Iran with Iraq in a single meeting. So what does Trump do? He brings in his doctors, Dr. James Jones and Dr. Sean Barbarella, the White House physician who, let's be honest, has the easiest job description in history. Lie. Just lie. That's it. That's the whole job. Is the president healthy? Lie. Did he pass his cognitive test? Lie. Should we be concerned? Lie harder. And here's where it gets absolutely ridiculous. Trump looks at these two doctors standing next to him and says, quote, "I don't know these guys at all." I'm sorry, what? These are your doctors. These are the people who've been supposedly taking care of you for over a year. And you don't know them? That's not the flex you think it is, buddy. That's not you being tough and independent. That's a symptom. That's literally a symptom of memory loss. Who are these strangers in white coats? Why are they following me around? Why do they keep trying to take my blood pressure? At that point, those doctors should have looked at each other and gone, okay, we need to talk about his medication. But they didn't, because that would require honesty, and we can't have that in this administration. Then Trump goes off on this tangent about how he takes physicals purposely every year or less because, and I quote, "The American people should know that the president is healthy so you don't get a guy like the last one who was the worst thing that ever happened to older people." I'm sorry, pause. Biden was the worst thing that ever happened to older people? Just older people? Not young people, not middle-aged people, just specifically the elderly? Like, what's the cutoff here? Is it 65? 70? 75? Because I need to know at what exact age Biden became bad for you. Was he fine for 64-year-olds but terrible for 65-year-olds? Did he have a vendetta against AARP members specifically? This man needs to explain his reasoning because that makes zero sense. And then, and this is my favorite part, Trump threatened to sue New York Magazine if they wrote a bad story about his health. Yeah, the guy who claims to be in perfect health is threatening to sue anyone who suggests otherwise. That's totally what healthy, stable people do. Nothing says I'm fine like threatening legal action against anyone who notices you're not fine. So the reporter, Ben Terrace, tries to ask about the MRI Trump recently had. You know, the one that was totally routine and definitely not because something concerning was happening. And Trump loses it. He says, quote, "It was the worst fucking thing I ever did. I blame them. They wanted me to take it." Hold on. You're the president of the United States. You're the guy who claims to be the strongest, most powerful leader in history. And you're saying your doctors forced you to take an MRI? Against your will? The commander-in-chief was coerced into medical imaging by his own staff? That's your story? And then he says the stupidest part. Are you ready for this? He says the only reason they did the MRI is because the machine was sitting there. That's it. That's the explanation. It wasn't because they were concerned about anything. It wasn't because symptoms indicated they should look deeper. No, the machine was just there. Convenient. Like a vending machine. Oh, look, an MRI machine. Might as well use it. Would be ashamed to let it go to waste. Except, that's not how medicine works. That's not how any of this works. We don't do MRIs for fun. We don't do MRIs because the machine is lonely and needs attention. We do MRIs when doctors are looking for something specific, when they're trying to rule out or confirm a problem that explains what they're seeing externally. Every actual doctor who's commented on this has said the same thing. You don't order an MRI as a preventative measure. You order it when you're worried about something. So Dr. Jones jumps in, shuffling through papers like he's trying to find the right lie in his notes, and he says they did a CT scan and it was MRI-like. Which, okay, sure. And then Dr. Barbarella chimes in with, There was no evidence of narrowing of blood vessels and no abnormalities of the heart. And Jones comes back with, the results were, perfect. Did you catch that? The hesitation? The results were, perfect. That's not how you describe perfect results. When results are actually perfect, you say, the results were perfect. No pause. No searching for words. No, That, is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. That, is screaming, I'm about to lie to you and I'm not even good at it. And then Barbarella mutters to himself, almost like he's trying to convince himself, excellent results. They were excellent results. My man is literally having to repeat it to himself to make it sound believable. That's not confidence. That's someone who knows they're full of shit and is trying to gaslight themselves into believing their own lie. But then, and this is where it goes from weird to absolutely insane, Trump suddenly changes his tune about these doctors he supposedly doesn't know. He goes, I love these two guys. They're great, but I don't know them. I'm sorry, which is it? You love them or you don't know them. You can't have both. Well, actually, you can. You can if you're suffering from dementia. You can if your brain is currently shorting out in real time. You're like a drunk guy at a bar going, you're my best friend, man, I love you. Who are you again? Yep, that's a symptom. That's a red flag waving so hard it's about to fly off the pole. And his doctors are just standing there, watching him unravel, saying nothing. And then shit got really weird. I need to read this part to you because I want to do it full justice. I don't want to paraphrase because the actual description is too perfect. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt breaks into the conversation and asks Dr. Jones whether he worked for the Obamas. He confirms he did. So Ben Terrace, the reporter, asks the obvious question, which president was healthier? Trump, at nearly 80 years old, who reportedly doesn't eat vegetables, or Barack Obama, who was 55 at the end of his presidency and famously worked out every day? Here's what happened next. Trump stared across the desk, making direct eye contact with Dr. Jones. Jones didn't hesitate. President Trump, he said. Trump nodded. There was no smile, no reaction, as if there could have been any other answer. Then Trump turned to the reporter and said, "Write that." Are you kidding me? That sounds like a hostage situation. That sounds like a scene from The Godfather. Trump staring him down, Leavitt probably nudging him from behind, and poor Dr. Jones forced to say something that is objectively, medically, scientifically impossible. Barack Obama, who was 25 years younger at the end of his term, who played basketball, who ate healthy, who had zero credible health concerns during his entire 8 years in office, was somehow less healthy than Donald Trump, a man who lives on Diet Coke and Big Macs and can barely walk down a ramp without assistance. Dr. Jones needs to blink twice if he's in danger because that whole exchange felt like coercion. And honestly, unless he can prove in writing that he was forced to lie, he should lose his medical license. Because if you're going to sit there and tell the American people that Trump is healthier than Obama, you're not a doctor anymore. You're a propagandist with a medical degree. You're a quack. And you're actively harming public trust in medicine. Dr. Barbarella, he's already too far gone. He's been lying for Trump since day one. But Jones seemed like he might have had some integrity left. And watching it drain out of him in real time as Trump stared him down was genuinely disturbing. And here's the thing. We were told for years that there was a cover-up of Joe Biden's health, that his staff was hiding his cognitive decline. And you know what? They didn't talk about it much, sure, but there was never a press conference where Biden brought in his doctors and forced them to lie to reporters while making eye contact to ensure compliance. There was never a moment where Biden's press secretary orchestrated a public gaslighting session to convince America that he was healthier than a man half his age. This is an active cover-up. This is the entire administration, from Trump down to his medical staff, lying directly to the press and the public. And the sooner the media starts treating it like the crisis it is, the better. Because let's be real, Trump's cognitive decline is worse than anything we saw with Biden. Way worse. And it happened faster. Biden's decline took 4 years to become fully apparent. Trump's decline has been on display for months, and we still have 3 more years of this ahead of us. 3 more years of a president who doesn't recognize his own doctors, who blames medical tests for public concern, and who forces physicians to lie under duress. This is dangerous. This is scary. And the fact that we're all just watching it happen in real time and half the country is pretending not to notice, that should terrify every single one of us. Thanks for watching. If you're not already subscribed, hit that button. Like, comment, and share this video because people need to see what's actually happening. The truth matters, even when it's being actively suppressed by the White House itself.